Hey guys, welcome back to the Buzz Weaver channel. And today in our top stories and breaking news, I wanted to touch on this particular story as well as others, because what's happening is we're getting a lot of misinformation and a lot of propaganda. Now, I say propaganda not in any facetious or cynical way. We are genuinely seeing a lot of propaganda. Even if it's a trusted source that you have, please consider it. Check the sources, see what's going on, see if you compare that news with something else. From the Gateway Pundit, Adam Kinzinger gets punked again. More misinformation coming from the Ukraine front. Now, some of these you probably have already seen, but I just wanted to recap them and just show you the little tidbits that are also happening as we go along. With the mainstream media now, very similar to Black Friday, when businesses try to make up for all their losses throughout the year or try to get out of the red and into the black, well, the mainstream media is now trying to get all those clicks and all those views to make up for their abysmal year and terrible performance that they've had overall. We reported on the ghost of Kyiv and the fact that the whole story was garbage. We also reported that Rep. Adam Kinzinger from the January 6th witch hunt retweeted it. Now, they're kind of showing Adam Kinzinger is a lieutenant colonel, a former lieutenant colonel, or a lieutenant colonel in the National Guard. So basically, the Gateway Pundit is just trying to give him a bit of a hard time because he's posting stuff like the two children here with this particular tank and the Ukrainian forces, which is from several years ago. As you can see here, Cat Turd also pointed it out. Picked from 6 years ago, but nice try. And it's also important to note that the media does use stock footage from previous times. We've seen Zelensky quite a few times where he's in the full body armor, helmet, and all that in the trenches. And that's from several years ago as well. But it is just kind of B-roll film, I suppose you could say, but really the media really needs to do a better job of discerning it. Now, of course, there is a war, so it's not like they can just have people out there like a series on Cops where they can be there with the police and see what's going on. It's a war. It's dangerous. People aren't going to be out there reporting on it necessarily. And we see another one here from Cat Turd. I said on my podcast yesterday, don't believe any images or stories coming from the Ukraine-Russia conflict until verified 100%. And that's absolutely correct because we are seeing a lot of these kind of mixed images and so forth. And even so far as to watch as individuals use cardboard weapons wasn't also made it through into the mainstream media. But again, like I said, it's all about the clicks. It's all about the views. It's about getting that advertisement revenue or trying to appeal to the advertisers to advertise during this conflict. And so what is the max effective range of a cardboard AK-47? And, you know, it's kind of sad and not entirely funny, but it's just kind of ridiculous. And remember the escalation of this. Think about this. Think about the particular key points when it comes to certain groups and the way they try to distract and deflect. For example, from the Daily Mail UK, Secret Service take 2 men into custody in D.C. and seize body armor and assault rifle. More than a half dozen agents descended on sedan with Marine Corps veteran plates. Now, keep in mind here that we know very much how much the Democrats love to play the Capitol 6th event. We know how much they like to dig into that, dig it up, saber rattle, and do all kinds of things to kind of hype things up. So this was just one of those, another little story. It's completely possible that this happened. And of course, this is going to give the Twitterazzi and the left a lot of stuff to work with. They're going to disseminate it. They're going to break it all down. They're going to say, see, we've got additional Capitol riot people out there. We have these crazy, deranged right-wing people out there trying to make it more difficult for Joe Biden, who's under a lot of pressure. But a lot of this, I think, is because of the abysmal, absolutely terrible State of the Union address that we saw. Absolutely awful. In the sense that he borrowed a lot from what Republicans would say, conservatives would say, and even Trumpism. So when we said it was MAGA or Diet MAGA, the left really got upset. So now we go into some more stories as the war is unfolding and things are continuing. Top Russian general is killed by Ukrainian sniper as Kyiv claims 9,000 of Putin troops have been deceased during invasion. And so it's just really kind of interesting the way this is all kind of unfolding and the types of topics and the type of articles that we're seeing. A top Russian general has been eliminated, aimed bitter fighting in Ukraine in what represents a major blow to the Russian invasion. I want you guys to focus on this because there's this constant sense of demoralization of the Russian army. This is part of the propaganda. I'm not saying the UK Mail is trying to do it. I'm not saying this is, the most perfect example of propaganda. But in these instances where you have Russia engaged in this war and the world wants it to end, they want Russia to be humiliated. They want Russia to be demoralized. So what do? You start showing their defeats. You start showing their weaknesses. You start showing their Achilles heel. And that's what we're seeing here, perhaps with this article. I'm just giving you a generalization, right? I'm not saying that, this is absolute propaganda. This is what it looks like. I'm just saying these are the types of stories that we can see and learn about. And then, of course, it's obviously being put out there for everyone to see that this happened to kind of, again, demoralize the Russian military, demoralize Putin. And then we see other actors involved in all this as well. From the U.S. Sun, we have Star Wars. Russia warns hacking satellites would be act of war after anonymous claim to have breached space defenses. Now, at least this is at least responsibly written by saying anonymous claimed and not necessarily anonymous is or this is what anonymous is doing. But this is very concerning because if Russia, for example, starts considering that Anonymous is acting on the behalf of NATO or acting on the behalf of the United States or any other country, this is going to be a major issue. Russia has warned that hacking its satellites is an act of war after the country's space agency was reportedly hit by a cyber attack. So cyber war, or what Tim likes to refer to and others have referred to as fourth and fifth generational warfare. And that is where we have all this cyber activity, propaganda, using the internet, and all these things are going on all together at one time. So from the Mirror, Vladimir Putin says violence will get worse and plans to take over all of Ukraine. Now, we mentioned in previous videos that this is kind of an incremental attack, a death by 1,000 cuts. Putin is slowly trying to wear down the Ukrainian people. He's slowly trying to wear down the individuals defending Kyiv. And we're seeing just kind of him systematically doing this. And this is why people have been saying, well, why are we getting kind of these grunt forces? Why are we getting kind of these secondary older style vehicles and military type equipment that's kind of breaking down or having issues, and which could also be part of that sense of demoralization. But I think that Putin is just kind of doing a very gradual kind of, like I said, frog in boiling water, kind of a death by 1,000 cuts. He's gradually just kind to wear the Ukrainians down. Russia's attack on Ukraine is going according to plan, and the violence will get worse, Vladimir Putin warned today. So you can see how this particular sentence and topic started with Russia coming from a very strong position that they are continuing. And for all intents and purpose, that's what we're seeing. It is getting very dangerous. It's going to get very dangerous as it gets closer and closer to the city. The desperation level for both the Ukrainians and the Russians is going to increase. But the question is, at what point will Putin pull out his big aces? When he's going to pull out his elite forces? When is he going to pull out his new weapons, new machinery, new air force? And I say that not like brand new right off the block. I'm saying he's got his better gear, he's got his better equipment, he's got his better troops ready if they're needed. From the Washington Examiner, Rubio warns Putin's time is running out on this earth. A growing fixation with age has Russian President Vladimir Putin taking more dangerous risk, according to a top U.S. senator. Senator Marco Rubio, in a CNN appearance Wednesday, noted that Putin of today, showing flashes of anger at a time when he is waging a war in Ukraine, is not the same cool and calculating leader he was in the past. Anxiety about cementing his place in history is a driving force behind Putin's bellicose actions, the Florida Republican says. Now, it's important to note that these are the types of ways that the mainstream media also tries to identify President Trump. They try to undermine his thought processes. They try to undermine his actions. They try to undermine his policies. And if he sneezes twice in a row, they often want to invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, of course, that's a bit of an exaggeration. And Marco Rubio is not a never-Trumper, right? Marco Rubio is very much alongside there in support of President Trump. But like we said, and the purpose of this video is to illustrate how the mainstream media is trying to undermine Putin, trying to make him look like a madman, trying to bring into question his health and mental state. So just remember that, guys, as you're watching all of the media here. Take it with a grain of salt. Check your sources. See what's going on. because I want to show you this from the State of the Union the other night.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people.
The Iranian?
He'll never extinguish their love of freedom.
Did he just say Iranian?
Yes.
He will never weaken the resolve
That's
of the
like
free
finish
world.
your beer.
Okay, so here we have it, right? All this time we have mentioned that Joe Biden appears to be suffering from some sort of cognitive disorder. Now, I'm not a medical expert. I can't give you medical advice. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a speech expert. I do voiceover work, but I can tell you this, if I spoke the way Biden did, I would never do voiceover again. But suffice to say, the significance of this, and even Axios had to cover the fact that he said, now this wasn't the only gaffe he had. He had a lot of gaffes throughout the night, but no one brings into question Joe Biden's mental health. No one brings into question his speech or the way he speaks. Now, everyone likes to say he had a stutter as a child. That's fine. This isn't stuttering. This is misidentifying something. And I want to illustrate here to you again. Newsweek, Joe Biden mixed up Syria with Libya at G7 press conference. Now think about that. He kept referring to Syria as Libya. Now think about that. As Tim Pool said the other night, imagine Joe Biden is talking to an intern. This intern has to get some information to the military as quickly as possible. And Biden says, okay, well, I want you to send the military arms here, and I want you to send the cash there, and we're going to attack this particular position. We need to get this to the military right away. Now imagine if he mixes this up. Imagine if he gets it wrong. Do we have checkers and double checkers and triple checkers? Probably. Why? Because Joe Biden isn't always there. But there's no coverage of this. There's no one mentioning all of this stuff that's going on. And it's really kind of sad. Now, a bit of shifting gears as we wind things down. I wanted to point out Roman. He's a vlogger there in Russia. This is a video of him from March the 1st outlining how things are in Russia right now, how the sanctions are affecting Russians. And we have to remember that, you know, like when President Trump was the president, the left and the progressives and the Democrats were all upset and angry, so they weren't exactly supporting the president either. And of course, the world could still identify them as Americans, despite the fact that they disagreed with President Trump. So the Russians can also disagree with Putin. So people need to be very aware of this. But if you guys get a chance, be sure to check out Roman's video. I'll link it down below this video. But I just wanted to make it perfectly clear to you guys that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of psyops, there's a lot of attempting to portray Putin as some madman, and this is very, very common. Now, of course, Biden, I mean, obviously you see this, and this is just one example that I could give you. There's plenty others where he talked about the deficit, and someone said that he said clownification instead of clarification. There's all sorts of examples of Joe Biden's mental instability, or at least whatever he's going through. The man is going through some sort of dementia of some sort, of some kind, because most people understand that as people age, they have a tendency to have a problem. Because Fauci doesn't have this problem. Nancy Pelosi, who you see here on the right, she doesn't have that problem, and they're in their 80s. Both Fauci and Pelosi are in their 80s, and they're as sharp as a tack. But it's clear that things are leaning towards trying to make Putin look as bad as possible. I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. Those of you on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute, thank you so much for the likes and follows. Lately, you guys have been amazing. And, of course, everyone here on YouTube. As you know, this is 2022, and we're going to like and we're going to share. And you guys have been amazing helping the channel out, particularly now during this particular time, as I think some of my coverage here is being suppressed. But I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. And appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon. You guys can click on to, of course, subscribe, as well as get notifications. That way you know there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys in the Friday vlog.